Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Contemporary Issues Adult Sunday School class. We are so glad to have you here. This is a small group usually, where we are so glad to have all of you today here, 65 plus, back into our room. But we are a group that talks about social issues and religious issues from a Christian perspective. And so this is a good example today of what we are going to do. We are very pleased to have Colleen Harrison with us today to talk about Project 2025. Colleen is a retired elementary school teacher and principal with a special interest in this topic. And so we are looking forward to Colleen telling us what it includes and what the effects will be of Project 2025 in her view. And we'll have time for discussion also. But first, I want to introduce myself. I'm Steve Baska. I'm the leader of the class, and I want to welcome any first-time visitors. We won't put you on the spot, but just raise your hand if you're here for the first time. My goodness, good group. Thank you. If you would like to be on our weekly email list about the topics we have coming up, come up to me after class and give me your email address. I'd be glad to add you on. Our Zoomers, we have folks from Canada and around the country joining us also. Friends of the church. Eric's waving his Canada flag here. It's a small Canada flag. And we want to welcome you and ask you to please mute yourself in the lower left corner of your screen when you're not speaking so we can keep down the background noise. And we are recording this for future playback on YouTube. We have quite a few people who wanted to hear this today but couldn't be here for other commitments. And so we do play this back on YouTube later. And any other announcements of things going on in church? Today there's a 3 o'clock Highlands Band concert that one of our members here is in. Just wanted to give that a plug. And then also I want to do my usual political plea to you when we have a political topic like this today. We are a church where we want to be considerate of folks on both sides of the political spectrum. And this is not a forum where we want to be mean or say things that are inappropriate to either our speaker or toward any political candidate. Today, we will be talking about Mr. Trump, of course, and there will be any of those of you who are Trump supporters who may find something that's not fair or offensive. And if you would like to object, please do so in a kind manner. And if anything is not, I will have to take my prerogative to intervene. So just would like to ask you to please be considerate of people on both sides here. Fellas, I'm sorry if you've got a chair outside. We have asked to get a bigger room and we're in the process of maybe moving to another room here in the church when we get a big group like this. Knock out the wall. Maybe knock out a wall. That's right. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen, and she's going to have a 30-minute presentation with slides. And she'll want to go through it pretty quickly. If you have a brief question to clarify something that she's talking about, raise your hand. We can do that. But we don't, for the first 30 minutes, want to get into long discussion and people sharing their opinions and things like that. So, but we will have time for discussion afterwards. But let's let Colleen get through her slides. So with that, please welcome Colleen Harrison.
Just testing.
Closer, Colleen. You really got to get up and hear yourself echo there.
Oh,
You might want to hold it.
I'm gonna hold it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
I am so glad that you are here today. Thank you for being here. I started studying Project 2025 on January 6th when I saw all of the executive orders being signed, and I became very concerned about the future of education for our kids and for our democracy. So I started reading it. I've been studying it for about 3 months, and here we are. So I'm happy to share this information with you. I'm going to share facts and if I happen to have an opinion, I'll say that's my opinion, but mostly I'm gonna be sharing facts with you about 2025. So the goal of this presentation then is to share facts with you, and it's very important that you understand that at the foundation of Project 2025 is a Christian nationalist ideology. And that ideology is really at the foundation of Project 2025. And so what is Christian nationalism? I'm just going to share with you briefly what that is. It's a xenophobia. It's a lot about racial discrimination and prejudice. But mostly it's at odds with the teachings that we have here at our church of the teachings of Jesus. So that's the difference. Also, Project 2025 was written by the Heritage Foundation with more than 100 conservative groups. And it consists of 900 pages with the intention of providing a blueprint for conservative administration. And as I was reading some of the 900 pages, I have to say, I think they really made it difficult because a lot of the language is very legal, you know, and so unless you're an attorney, it's hard for you to understand it. But I'm going to try to put it in our terms, people's terms. So Project 2025 is defined as a political initiative to reshape the federal government of the United States and remove checks and on executive power in favor of right-wing policies. That's a fact. And the plan was published in April 2023 by the Heritage Foundation in anticipation of Donald Trump winning the 2024 election. And here's the very important part. Project 2025 asserts a controversial interpretation of the unitary executive theory. And I thought, now what does that mean? So I looked it up. Basically what it means, the entire executive branch is under the complete control of the president. So really what we're talking about, Project 2025 is a real transformation of power. And it begins with Donald Trump's 2025 administration. Officials, for example, officials across the federal government have been fired, including inspector generals at cabinet agencies and prosecutors at the Department of Justice. In the former case, Trump was required by law to inform Congress in advance and provide a solid rationale, and he did not. The latter case may have violated civil service protections for non-political members of the federal government. And it remains to be seen exactly how the courts and perhaps even the Supreme Court, which has shown deference to broad theories of executive power, will respond to Trump's actions. However, I do have a handout. We'll talk about that one later. There are some good things happening with the courts. So what are these objectives of Project 2025? And you've seen this. The project calls for merit-based federal civil service workers to be replaced with people loyal to the president and to take partisan department, take control of government agencies like the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Commerce. So and you know what, the merit-based system, I'm just going to describe what it used to be, and I'm hoping that never goes away, is a system that hires and promotes government employees based on their qualifications, their performance, rather than their political connections. The goal is to create an impartial, professional, and efficient government workforce. But Project 2025, what it does, it calls for replacement of merit-based civil service workers with people loyal to the president. So to do that, when that happens, that is a major step to support an autocracy. And what we have seen is many civil service federal workers have lost their jobs. They're living with fear. Am I going to have my job tomorrow? So and I will say this, in the same way that the Nazi regime threatened and used fear and terror for control, what Project 2025 does, it removes rights and freedoms. It aims to develop conservative policies that give the president absolute power. So what happens when these executive measures are in place? Well, the president would be free to implement the Project 2025 agenda. For example, reducing taxes on corporations and capital gains, instituting a flat income tax on individuals, dismantling Medicare and Medicaid. We will talk about that a little bit in a bit. But I would like to just share just a snippet of Rachel Maddow, what she said about Social Security.
A video here.
A video, yes. I'm sorry?
If you could just talk into the microphone.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will. Because I feel passionate about all this. Okay.
Can you make the slide big screen?
No, I wish we could, Keith. I'm sorry. When we do that, it knocks the Zoomers out so they cannot see on Zoom. I'm sorry about it. Colleen is reading the text off of the slides so that you all will understand and hear. Zoomers, can you hear that? Now, you are not able to hear that? Jim, can you hear that?
Yes.
No, the Zoomers cannot hear. We've tested it on Zoom, but they can't hear that at the moment. Sorry.
On closed captioning.
I'm not sure where to do that.
Right, that's on the right.
CC.
Up, it says CC.
It's right next to where it says.
Point good? Okay, closed captioning. There.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
no, try.
It's working.
Okay, there.
Right there. No, that's. But wait. That's too small too.
In other words, I don't think that at this point, he has not stopped Social Security. But what he is doing is making it so difficult for people to get Social Security. People who are in wheelchairs, people who are elderly, who cannot make it to an office or even find one, okay? All right, so let's move on. Now, I'd like to talk to you and share with you, on March 31st, 2025, the Colorado Social Legislation Committee met, and they shared a report on what's going to happen in Colorado because of federal cuts. And so one of them is there is going to be a structural deficit, which means not bringing in enough revenue to cover increased demands on schools and healthcare. There could possibly be an economic downturn. Also, what about the tax cuts? There will be major tax cuts for those making over $160,000. However, a median income of $46,000 would see a $1,000 tax increase. So if you're making over $160,000, there'll be tax cuts. Anyway, number two, reducing the capital gains rate from 20% to 15%. And this action rewards wealth rather than working in middle-class families. And so as a result, these families will be able to keep less of what they earn in order to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy. Number three, continue and expand corporate tax breaks. That's proposed in Project 2025.
Colleen, just quick question. That's what's proposed in 2025, not been introduced in the Congress yet.
Well,
right?
it's in the works. You know,
Okay.
I don't know what the final outcome will be.
Okay.
But-
Just
Yeah, good.
clarifying on that.
Clarifying. Now, Dave Young, he's the Colorado treasurer. He explained this. He said federal cuts to Medicaid would cause the state to make up the federal funding by slashing other essential programs like education, as well as kicking thousands of people who in Colorado who are on Medicaid. And I never knew this, but about 1.2 million people, a fifth of the state's population depend on that program. And that list includes seniors, disabled people, pregnant moms, and working class families. So what really are the effects of these federal cuts for Colorado? Basically, any cuts at the federal level will lead to cuts at the state level. And given the state budget situation, Colorado does not have the fiscal flexibility to respond. Coverage and benefits will be at risk for the entire Medicaid population, again, 1.2 million. Proposed cuts mean Colorado will lose at least 1 billion a year, and roughly 400,000 people in Colorado will lose coverage. Many hospitals, clinics, providers, especially in those rural areas, would be at risk of closing. There will be economic fallout and higher costs for everyone. For every 1 million lost from the federal government, Colorado will lose 2.22 million in economic activity and thousands of jobs. And again, this was a report from the Colorado Legislation Committee. That's where I got the information. Here's the part that really bothers me, because as a teacher and people here who are educators, we know that many of our kids need food either in the morning or at lunch. Now, in early March, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said it was cutting more than $1 billion in funding for local food for the schools cooperative agreement and the local food purchase assistance cooperative programs for 2025. This money was designed to pay farmers to provide food to schools and food banks, especially SNAP, etc. Giving a boost to local producers while giving fresh options to children and communities. The cuts come as Trump and Musk target government programs and federal jobs. Food producers and food banks that participated in these programs say they will have less food to give their communities. That breaks my heart. So here are some more of the objectives. Project 2025 plans to infuse government, our whole society, and our schools with conservative Christian values, which includes the 10 Commandments and Bibles in the classrooms. It plans to make the National Institute of Health less independent and stop it from funding stem cell research and reduce environmental regulations to favor fossil fuels. Project 2025 proposes eliminating coverage of contraception and prosecuting people who send and receive contraceptive and abortion pills. So it rejects abortion as an idea of health care. And to me, this is health care discrimination, because women with incomes below the federal poverty level have the fewest resources to navigate restrictive abortion laws. and for the same reasons are more likely to need that. And I found these, what, anyway, I found this, the next information I'm gonna share, I found it in an article about how this is really gonna affect women. Half of US abortion patients, they live with incomes below the poverty level. Black women account for more than 1/4. Latinas account for 1/4, 25%. Asian and Pacific Islander women make up 6% of abortion patients. And then interestingly, white women account for 39% of abortion patients. Now, what I find interesting across, when you hear about what's happening, is that they go back to these laws from the 1800s and 1700s. For the banning of abortion, they're reviving an 1873 law called the Comstock Act, which was to ban any abortion medications and materials and prevent materials from being sent through the postal service. Also, a reversal of the FDA's approval of mifepristone, which is a drug that induces medical termination of pregnancy. So this Comstock Act of 1873, what it said was basically they could not get anything in the mail. And if they didn't follow these rules, then they could have 5 years of imprisonment with hard labor and a fine up to $2,000, and that was in 1873. So those are some of the objectives. Here are more. They want to criminalize pornography. They want to remove any legal protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Also, they want to terminate diversity, equity, and inclusion, which are DEI programs. And
Seen that already.
we're looking at that right now, and I want to talk to you about Harvard. This really bothers me. I have been a professor at universities, and the fact that I would have to not be able to teach, having that academic freedom really gets under my skin. So Harvard University, they were very strong, and they rejected Trump's administration's demands to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, audit the viewpoints of all students, faculty, and staff, alter rules for on-campus protests, or face major losses of federal funding. In a statement, Harvard President Alan Garber said, "The university would not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights." He said, "No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they could admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue." And as a result, the Trump administration responded to Gerber by freezing $2.2 billion in multi-year grants to the school. Similar punitive actions have also been taken against Princeton, Cornell, and Northwestern, and considered against Brown. Columbia University was the first higher education institution to see its funding slashed. It decided to acquiesce to the administration by changing its curriculum and admission guidelines, enacting new policies, and empowering law enforcement to identify protesters on and off campus. Project 2025, and I know you've seen it in the news, has big plans for a lot of deportations. It is going to target immigrant communities through mass deportations and raids, end birthright citizenship, separate families, dismantle the asylum system. Tom Homan, who was Donald Trump's border czar, he led an interest group that advised the deportation policy for Project 2025, just so you know. So Project 2025 supports the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 for mass deportations. Hundreds of Venezuelans were deported to El Salvador as a part of an agreement between Trump and Nayib Bukele. And they were sent to El Salvador despite a U.S. District Court Judge, James Boasberg, disputing the Wartime Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Trump criticized him for overstepping his executive order as president. And also, I really think a lot about Kathy Hochul, who is the governor in New York. On January 2025, she took a stand and spoke about ending birthright citizenship. And this is what she said. Birthright citizenship isn't just enshrined in our Constitution. It's key to the fundamental promise of America. While we are currently reviewing specifics of the executive orders issued by President Trump today, New York is prepared to take any action within our power to ensure that those born in our state have all the rights and protections that prior generations of new Americans have been granted. So,
Colleen, can we give you a break for just a second? And just to collect your thoughts, if you want to take a drink of water. That's right, I just want to give you a break for a second. Let me play the devil's advocate for a second here, since we've been going for almost 30 minutes.
oh,
Trump's supporters, of course, would say on this issue, for example, birthright citizenship, well, it's reasonable to take that away. It's become such an issue with people coming from other foreign countries to America just to have a child here so that it can be an American citizen and then moving away back to their home country. That there are reasons, good common sense reasons for doing away with this long-time birthright citizenship idea, just as there are good reasons for other things that Trump is doing. What would you say to that? Should I throw that out?
I would say I want to listen to your point of view and I want to understand it.
Go ahead and use your mic.
Oh, I would say I want to listen to your point of view and I want to understand it. And I think that in this day and age of what is happening, that is probably one of the most powerful things we can do,
Right.
is to say, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to listen to what you're saying. Maybe we can have a common ground.
I just feel I would push back and I would say, where's your statistics for that fear? Give me, oh, it's such a huge problem. There's other areas that's used, like voter fraud. It's such a problem. And you look at the statistics and it's not even really there. It's so small, it's not even there. So I would say, if we're gonna have a conversation, let's do it on some evidence. Of your
Correct.
concerns and your.
That's what my husband would do. Okay, I know Mason would do that. All right, so asylum, Project 2025 wants to dismantle that. And that bothers me because I think asylum is a human right. I'm gonna cut things shorter now.
Sure, okay.
I really do believe too, the more that I read about Project 2025, that I believe that the Nazi regime had a similar blueprint. And I think that the threat and terror that was part of the Nazi regime, I know that all of you are talking to people and then they're afraid. Agree?
Yeah.
People are afraid, and that's a fact. And one of the things about the Nazi terror state, there were three elements of how they gained power. One, the removal of rights and freedoms. Two, the establishment of a police state, ICE, and the development of a concentration camp system. El Salvador. I mean, at
Guantanamo.
Guantanamo Bay. He's building that facility that can house 30,000 people, and ICE will be in charge of that at the camp. So, Project 2025, like Steve said, there's 2 points of view. Proponents of Project 2025 argue it will dismantle what they view as a vast, unaccountable, and mostly liberal governmental bureaucracy. Critics of Project 2025 have characterized the plan as an authoritarian Christian nationalist movement that would steer the US toward an autocracy. So what is an autocracy? Basically, it's a form of government which there's absolute power. It's headed by the state and the government, known as an autocrat. Autocracy is a form of government in which one person has all the power. And there are 2 main types of an autocracy, a monarchy and a dictatorship. In a monarchy, there's a king or a queen, and they're known as a monarch. But what is a dictatorship? A dictatorship is an autocratic form of government which is characterized by a leader or a group of leaders who hold governmental powers with few to no limitations. Politics in a dictatorship are controlled by a dictator, and they're facilitated through an inner circle of elites. That includes advisors, generals, and other high-ranking officials. The dictator maintains control by influencing and appeasing the inner circle and repressing any opposition, which may include rival political parties, armed resistance, or disloyal members of the dictator's inner circle. Could we play this? I want you to hear this from Pramila Jayapal, who says that Trump is running the authoritarian playbook, such as catch and revoke, where legal citizens are being stripped of their constitutional right of freedom of speech. Okay. So here are some examples of leading the world's oldest continuous democracy to an autocracy by eviscerating the federal government and subjugating Congress, by defying court orders and delegitimizing judges, by deporting immigrants and arresting protesters without due process. Due process is one of the most important parts of our Constitution. Chilling free speech at universities and cultural institutions, intimidating news outlets, launching a concerted effort to consolidate executive power, undermining checks and balances, and challenging established legal and institutional norms, placing loyalists in key positions with the FBI and the military, defying a judge's verbal order that blocks the Alien Enemies Act, a 1798 law meant only to be used in wartime. Project 2025 supports an autocratic playbook to push U.S. constitutional limits, attack civil society, and the legal profession. Kim Lang Shipla, Princeton professor of international affairs, explains this. The way that reasonably functioning democracies fall into an autocracy is really by law. Autocracies emerge not through coups, but by gradually manipulating laws and institutions, a pattern daily seen in Trump's presidential administration. So we're talking about a transformation of power. So in your handout, I just really felt compelled to give you a copy of this executive order, which was signed by Trump on February 18, 2025. It's Executive Order 1425. It's the first one in your packet right here. This is directly from the White House. Okay, and on page two, okay, we're gonna go to that, Steve. Go to slide 39. No, go to slide 40. I'm gonna read it to you because this is what kind of got to me. Therefore, in order to improve the administration of the executive branch and to increase regulatory officials' accountability to the American people, it shall be the policy of the executive branch to ensure presidential supervision and control of the entire executive branch. Moreover, all executive departments and agencies, including so-called independent agencies, shall submit for review all proposed and final significant regulatory actions to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs within the Executive Office of the President before publication in the Federal Register. The Federal Register, I looked it up because I thought I didn't really quite know what that was. And what that is, every day there's a journal that's kept, and everything that was happening with laws, is put into that register. But now President Trump has control of what goes into that Federal Register.
Propaganda office.
Huh?
The Office of Propaganda.
Well, let me for a second play the devil's advocate.
Need him on my side. I have to have somebody.
I'm a retired newspaper reporter, so I was trained to do this kind of thing.
Okay,
And it helps us to understand the other side, I think. And so
okay.
we will have other folks disagree, but this whole transformation of power, this whole giving more power to the president is what the people voted for. That's what the Trump supporters will say. Yes, it's a big change from the past. It's giving the president much more power. It's questioning whether judges have the right to restrain him. But this is what 77 million people voted for. And so the liberals should allow the conservatives to have their time and make their changes. And that is part of the discussion. So.
Okay, amen.
Okay.
Okay.
Just trying to understand both sides.
And I appreciate that. I do. I could come back to something, but I'm gonna move on. Okay, and the reason I'm gonna move on is because, and this will take a while, but I'll cut it short. How much time do we have?
It's
Really?
11:10. We've got 20 minutes.
Okay, but to me, the most important part of a democratic process is to have discussion. And I know there's all different kinds of points of view, but I do want you to hear part of this about how it's going to affect education. Because the educators in this room, I know you're gonna jump up afterwards and say, yes, we gotta do something. Here we go.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
little video here also.
yes. And I will tell you when we'll start because. I think you get the message there. And I know that Tina, a friend of mine that's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
keep forgetting, sorry.
Yeah.
I know that a friend of mine who's here was a reading teacher. And a lot of teachers that work with kids who have disabilities, well, that's not the right word. Learning, they're just not up to par at their grade level. And a lot of these kinds of programs are funded through Title I. Eric, do you have anything you want to say about that? Being an educator with Title I funds?
I substituted high school, so I'm not familiar with the Title I requirements for
Yeah,
high school.
yeah, usually schools that are Title I schools that are designated as that, many of the children have free and reduced lunch. And they really they come from a lot of poverty. So cutting Title I funds is huge. It is just really huge. So, I am going to move on here. Let me just, so by abolishing the Department of Education, the kids that are gonna get hurt the most are the most vulnerable, special ed kids, students of low poverty, and all students with special needs.
I'd also like to mention the statistics on having preschools, that the statistics on people who get preschool education do better in school as they go on. they're less likely, more likely to go to college, more likely to be able to support themselves and not be dependent upon any kind of aid. So I think preschool for all children is so important.
I agree with you. Just trying to think of, in your packets, this is something like people have said to me, well, Colleen, what can we do? And we've talked about that. Yeah, one of the things you can do is write your representatives. Of course, you can also go to protests. In your packet, I have a letter, a guide letter to write your representative. I think there's no other time I think we need to write them and share our points of view, because it's their job to listen to their constituents. And on page 10, if you have never, how do you find your legislators? How do you find your senators and everybody? You can go to the General Assembly, Google General Assembly, and then you'll see where it says find my legislator. It's so easy. You just tap on that. You give your address, put in your address, boom, you'll find your legislators right there that you can write. Okay. The other one that, we have to go to, I have to share this with you. I want you to look in your packet, go to, here it is, Project 2025 Tracker. This is an amazing site. If you go there to project2025.observer, you can find what is happening for all of the objectives of 2025. Now, I want you to look at this with me. Everybody get this page.
Page 13.
Page 13. The one that really gets to me is, well, they all do, but look at the word personnel, okay? So what's happening right there is on March 27, 2025, weaken federal employee unions. Note, Trump signed an executive order stripping collective bargaining rights from federal workers in 18 departments. That happened. That was signed. That was completed. That was one of the objectives. Now go down to DHS, Department of Homeland Security, eliminate the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. It says that that was completed March 21st. I mean, go on and on. This is an amazing site, Project 2025 Tracker. www.project2025.observer. You'll be able to look up what executive order has been signed and what has been completed. I mean, taking away collective bargaining rights. I mean,
A judge just blocked that.
Pardon?
A judge just blocked that.
Oh, they did. Thank you for that information. I can't keep track of everything.
Go to the Supreme Court, yeah.
Yeah, when I started writing this PowerPoint, some of the things that I had originally, they changed.
Yeah.
Because so much is happening every single day. I can't keep track of it. Yeah, you're right.
But will Trump obey the law? Yeah.
No. Okay, the last page, I don't know, that Senator Bennett is going to be running for governor.
Yeah.
And amen. And I put a flyer in here, and I'm really happy that he is wanting us to be aware of SNAP and how food that goes to people who really need food will be affected by federal cuts. Okay, and I want to just share one last thing, okay? I have to share my story, my education story, because it meant so much to me. In 1998, I had the privilege to present some research on a classroom management model that I had done research on. It was called Judicious Discipline. And I was there at the first education conference in Beijing, China. And judicious discipline was developed to protect student rights in schools. balanced by 4 compelling state interests. The compelling state interest test is a legal standard used by courts to determine whether a government's interest in regulating certain rights like freedom of speech or religion outweigh an individual's right. In contrast, now remember, I was presenting this in a communist country, and all of the educators that were in the room, there were about 200 of them, you could have heard a pin drop. It was a remarkable experience, because in the communist regimes prioritize state control over individual freedoms to maintain power. Now, when I was done, I was at a podium, and as I spoke in English, it was translated into Mandarin. And all of a sudden, I was done, and it was so quiet. And I thought, they're gonna come get me. They're gonna take me away. But, a large group of Chinese educators came up to me at the podium, and they said something to me, and these are wonderful people. And they said to me, we don't have rights in China. The only rights exercised are the rights of the state. And to this day, I've never forgotten that. And I think that's why I'm here right now with you, is we need to spread the word of what is happening, and that we need to protect our democracy. And on my flight home from Beijing to USA, I had a layover at the Los Angeles airport. And I mean, I ran into this t-shirt shop, and I bought a t-shirt that said United States of America. I was so proud to be an American. So I just wanted to share that with you. Amen.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colleen, you're right. Eloquent spokesman. Well, let's take our remaining 8 or 9 minutes for discussion. I would love to hear from anybody who is a Trump supporter who would love to tell us why you're in favor of Project 2025. And just tell us a little bit about it, if you're comfortable. Please don't feel like you can't speak up. Okay. We do have them in the room. Yes, Keith, my friend, please share your thoughts.
With supporting 2025, I don't know much about it,
Okay,
and he's publicly said he doesn't support it. His actions speak, though, I understand that. And I voted for him, and he's doing, to a large degree, exactly what I wanted him to do. Close the border and cut down on federal spending. Our federal spending is so out of control. In my opinion, the only way you go at it is slash and burn. You can't pussyfoot around it, because it won't happen, just like it hasn't happened in the last 5 or so administrations. They talk about it, they get elected, they do nothing. And we've got $36 trillion of debt. Folks, do you know how big that number is? Not one of you, not including me, understands how big that is. That is obscene, and he's doing something about it. He's got the guts to at least try, in my opinion.
thank you for sharing, Keith. I appreciate that. Rich,
The debt is growing under Donald Trump.
Yes.
Period.
okay?
Period. It's up.
Well, and the question
All
is,
the
how do you,
tax breaks,
yes, exactly.
we
That's what
end
the
up holding the bag.
counter argument is. If you cut spending, then are you gonna turn around and give that to people through giving wealthy tax cuts too? Another side to that. But I'm so glad Keith shared. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So 77 million people voted for Trump, and it was the majority. This is the first time that it's been like
Yeah.
the majority.
Electoral.
He had more votes.
He had more electoral votes.
Yeah.
Right. As loud as you can, Ellen.
He had more votes.
Okay, right.
So are we gonna be able to convince the people that voted for him to change back away from the Project 2025? Or just saying, maybe the people who don't believe in Project 2025 should separate themselves from the United States of America, of Trump, the United States of Trump.
Ah,
And
okay.
become a different,
There have been calls for
Yeah.
succession,
Yeah.
I mean, you
two
know,
separate
two
Americas,
separate.
red and the
ones, you know,
blue.
we don't have to believe the same thing, but should we have to be under the rule of something we don't believe in?
But didn't we go through that called the Civil War?
Yes, and maybe we need another one, not a war, just a separation.
The Civil War never ended.
The Civil War never ended, Rich said, yes.
Period.
And it never will.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
Keith,
would-
go ahead.
I would just bring up, and we all know this, I think, but the last time we balanced the federal budget was under the Clinton administration. And we did eliminate, I believe, the number is 455,000 federal jobs.
Al Gore mentioned that last
But
week.
the way we did it was in much the same way that we're currently doing it right now through early retirements with some incentive, through, through, but it was just done in a much kinder and gentler way.
Done with a scalpel, not a chainsaw.
Well, it was done with some dignity to those who were affected, yeah.
It was
Yes.
done through departments. The department had to say how they would eliminate jobs. They didn't just say, you're fired and you're not a good worker.
Because of your political.
But many folks believe, as Keith said, that you have to go in and do it aggressively or it's not gonna get done. Yes. Yes, Corinne first and then Lee.
Just wanted to ask you, you got back and said you were proud to be an American.
Yes.
Where are your sentiments right now?
I am still proud to be an American, and that's what I'm doing right now. I felt compelled to share this information because I want to share something. I had lunch with a friend, and this person is a staunch Republican, and we were able to discuss our different points of view. However, at the very end, I said to her, well, I was going to be doing this PowerPoint today on Project 2025. Her comment to me was, what is Project 2025?
Oh,
So I think that we need to share this information. I don't think people are aware of this blueprint. And I know that first day that Trump was in office, see, there are so many people behind this, the Heritage Foundation, et cetera, and people with a lot of money. And he is doing this because that's his mandate.
Oh, that's true.
that's a beautiful answer.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lee.
Yeah, I think something maybe we didn't cover in this, which makes sense different, is DOGE is gathering all this data on people.
Yes.
Basically, it's a data gathering group organization. And so it'll be interesting to hear about what their thought, what some people's thoughts are, what they might be doing with that data.
That would be something that we could continue this on a different class. People could bring a topic that they would like to talk about and share it with each other. It's, I think, how we can fight, if you want to use the word, would be the more that we're educated, the more that we understand what is really happening, because, I mean, really, when Hitler came into power in 1933, I'm not saying that Trump is a Hitler fan. I'm not saying that. And I want to make that clear. But there are similarities between what happened in 1933 and what's happening now. We need to be educated. We need to understand and not be, oh, really? That's happened? You know what I mean?
And Hitler won in a democratic election.
Yes, okay, so Yeah. loud, please.
Did you say?
Louder, please.
In the book, The Garden of the Beast by Eric Larson. It starts in 1930 when we sent to Berlin a new ambassador. And he took his family over, and that he began to notice this kind of renegade political person named Hitler. And he was worried about it. And so he came back to the United States periodically to report to the State Department. And they just kept saying, don't get involved in their politics, this'll all work out. And finally, of course, by 1933, Hitler is elected and all these events start to take place. And he finally went to FDR closer to 1939, I can't remember the date, and said, you don't understand. This is major and we are going to be involved whether we like it or not. And it's very enlightening.
Thank you, Susan.
What's the name of the
Appreciate
book
it.
again?
Garden of the Beast.
The Garden of the Beast. We've only got about one more minute. Who had their hand up? Jan?
To tell people about an app that you can put on your phone called 5 Calls. And those of you that may not be familiar with it, it's a way that you can contact your congressperson and it'll tell you who your congresspeople are, their phone number, their website, and you can directly contact them. It also gives you a list of the actions that are currently being debated and give you a lot of information about them. It's a fabulous app.
It's called 5 Calls. We need to
Calls.
talk about that.
It's number 5 calls.
The number 5 CALLS.
Correct. And it's an app to put on your phone.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
briefly, Heather Cox Richardson, those of you that may not be familiar with her, well, she's the one that I read about that executive order being blocked. There were 6 of them that were blocked this past week.
And I'd also like to share, I just joined the League of Women Voters and I'm trying to take a look at legislation that's being done anyway. But I do know that the League of Women Voters is now suing Trump.
Yeah, great.
In line. I'm so sorry, but we are out of time.
Ron has.
One comment from
I just
Ron.
want to point out, we have several books on authoritarianism. They're available right over there. And you can take those out at your convenience.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm sorry we couldn't go longer. Thank you, Colleen. Great job,
Thank you. Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.